Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being with us. I'm Angelina, a founder of Asioda Personal Brand Assessment, and today is another episode of Asioda Personal Brand Coaching Corner. Asioda Coaching Corner is a platform where we bring real coaches with real experience. We talk about something that most professionals were never taught: how to be seen for what you're actually capable of. And it is a pressing question, but you don't need to be an influencer or a celebrity to have a personal brand. If you ever thought, why am I doing the work but not getting the credits? Or why do others get promoted faster when I know more? Or why don't people see me as leadership material? Well, you're in the right place. And I guarantee you have a brand, but not the one that you actually want yet. Your personal brand is simply your reputation at work. It decides who gets opportunities, who gets remembered, and who gets passed over. If you want people to notice your growth, trust you, and think of you when opportunities come, your brand is your differentiator. So today, we will discover how our business language shapes how people see us. And I'm so happy to be joined by Gorkem, English business language coach for HR professionals. She has a vast experience in this field, and we just cannot wait to learn more from her. The way we met was thanks to LinkedIn. A simple comment and a conversation that sparked a discussion about personal brand and language. And by the way, if you missed a networking on LinkedIn session with Dana that we had last time, please go ahead and watch it. But for now, I'm very happy to welcome Gorkem. And perhaps, Gorkem, I can ask you to start with an introduction about you. Tell us what you do and how did you get to do what you do?
Great. Well, Angelina, first of all, thank you so much for having me here. It's an absolute pleasure to be here and tell you about myself and what I do. And if I can add some insights, that would be fantastic. So my background is a blend of business, communication, and language. I originally studied business studies with HR and organizational behavior modules. So people development and communication were always at the heart of my interests. I started my career in the corporate sector in the UK in roles where communication, client relationships, and management were central. Alongside that, I became deeply interested in coaching very early, more than 20 years ago. And coaching wasn't even mainstream yet. I trained in professional coaching and used those skills throughout my corporate career with teams, in client communication, and in leadership roles. Later, when I trained as an English teacher and began working in education, so everything came together: the business side, the coaching side, and the language side. I realized I wasn't just teaching English, I was supporting people in expressing their identity, credibility, and leadership through language. Over time, I worked with many different professions, but I found myself naturally drawn to HR professionals, partly because of my earlier HR studies, and partly because HR work is deeply human and communication heavy. And because I've lived and worked in Germany and understand both the language and cultural expectations, I began focusing specifically on helping German-speaking HR professionals navigate their global communication with more clarity and confidence. So really this niche is the result of everything I've done over the last 20 years, like business, coaching, teaching, HR, psychology. So all blending into a very natural direction for me. So this is
Wow,
my
so
background.
interesting. Very, very interesting. Thank you so much. And what do you see? Is there a difference between German HRs and HRs elsewhere?
No, it's not about German HR being different. It's more about speakers of the German language. It's because I have some working knowledge of German, and I know some of the false friends in German and in English, and I understand the challenges learners of English have, like German native speakers. So because I can anticipate those problems, it allows me to help and tailor my programs to suit their needs more. So that's the reasoning. So it's not about how the HR element is different. The reason I got into HR was because of my interest in working with communication and people and people in organizations. So that was the reason for specialization in this field.
Okay, let's take a step back and maybe can you tell us what is exactly language as business language as part of a personal brand? So what are we talking about? Are we only talking about that we use grammar correctly, or what is it about?
Well, okay, so I mean, talking about, let's say, HR professionals who I normally deal with. So I've always been fascinated by how people communicate in the workplace. And so HR professionals are at the heart of organizational communication. So after coaching clients from different industries, I noticed HR faces unique challenges, from giving feedback to handling sensitive conversations to writing job descriptions and communicating policies in English. And that's where I saw a real need, because it's really fundamental how you communicate yourselves, your expectations, the company's goals and objectives in a professional way, and also how you deal with conflict, or how you handle sensitive information, how you communicate important organizational changes. It really affects how people perceive you, how they respond to you. And if you come across as credible, professional, empathetic. So it's all about the message you want to convey.
Okay, I think we're touching something very interesting here. So, what are those patterns, for example, to be that great communicator of what you want to achieve with this communication?
Great question. So it's always about being fully aligned with, first of all, your values, who you are as a person. So, because we're not trying to change your true identity. So, if you are naturally a warm person, kind, empathetic person, I would encourage you to find phrases in English that reflect that side of you. So it's about the language. So your words and your tone and your pitch and your intention all have to align. And this is actually because we talked about authenticity before. So this is about authentic communication, and it's about having your own personal brand. It's not about mimicking somebody else. It's not about just memorizing phrases and using something that feels unnatural to you. Because if you don't look and sound confident, your listeners will pick up on that. Okay. And that's quite important. So you need to still be yourself, true to yourself, and your accent isn't important. So it's not about becoming like a native speaker. Okay. It's not about perfection. It's about coherence and consistency. We want our message to be understood. That's what's important. So it's not about impressing people. It's not about overcomplicating things and using very technical jargon just to impress somebody and show them how clever and smart we are. People know that you have the expertise, but what's important, and I've noticed that with some great business leaders and motivational speakers, they use simple language because that's how people can relate to them. You can't expect someone to use the kind of language you would use in academic writing, right? That's not natural. That's not how we speak to people. It's the same in our own native language, right? So
True.
yeah, exactly. So it's all about human connection, and it's about how you make the other person feel. That's really important. Building rapport, being sincere, being honest and genuine, and also remembering not to assume things. Try not to mind read. And if you're not sure about something, clarify. And I think people are afraid of asking questions because they don't want to come across as ignorant or inadequate. And this is where breakdown happens in communication, unfortunately. So in our personal lives, but also in the business world.
Okay, very interesting. There's so much to it now.
I'm
Okay,
yes,
let's unpack it a little bit.
yes, okay.
You mentioned something about confidence, and
Mm-hmm.
when we are speaking our values or
Mm-hmm.
according to our values, do I understand correctly that when we talk from our own, see if I can even say heart,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
we are more confident? Is this what it is about?
You're absolutely spot on because when we are fully aligned with ourselves, we're not putting on a mask, we're not pretending. So we feel less nervous because we are being exactly who we are. But when we try to pretend and try to impress somebody and we step away from our, true personality or our true values, we become incongruent. That's the problem. And even though we might think we're hiding it really well, there will be some clues in your body language, in your facial gestures, your tone, your pitch, and the listener, they may not be aware of it consciously, but subconsciously they will pick up on those tiny signals and cues. And they won't be able to articulate why, but this might result in distrust. So it might affect your credibility in their eyes. They will feel like you are hiding something.
My mother used to tell me always, everything hidden will always sometime in the future will be uncovered.
That's right. And usually that happens in a, high stress situation where, emotions just pour out of you, and people sometimes show their true character, their true selves. Whatever you've been suppressing, you've been pushing down, will eventually come out. And it's better to be able to express your opinions, your concerns early on, and in a respectful and diplomatic way, right? In a collaborative tone, so that the other person doesn't become offended or they don't get defensive. Because being passive aggressive doesn't really help you resolve conflict in the workplace, right? If you just remember what your key objectives are, remember that you're on the same team. It's not about showing the other person up, proving that you are right, they're wrong, because it's not about gaining medals at the end of the day. The problem is if you are in a meeting and if the other person is very good at controlling their emotions, they're very calm, cool, clear-headed. They could be sitting there with a smile on their face, and inside you might be so frustrated, your blood is boiling because you know what they've said isn't true, or they've hidden some facts, or there is some sort of personality clash from before. But the other attendees may not be aware of that situation. But all they will see is you losing your emotional control, and the other person will look professional and you will end up being in the wrong, even though, like your concerns might be right, but it's just how you put them across. If you do it in an aggressive, attacking way, you won't come across as a team player. They will see you as the problem maker or the person who's stirring the situation, even though you might be completely right. So that's why it's really important to learn these skills. I'm not talking about being politically correct, playing political games, because I am not for that at all. But remember, we have to be professional. And this person, although it might seem like, they're not as conscientious as you, they don't have the company's best interest. You might think that they're so lazy, or they're going to mess things up. You might be right. But if you want to resolve this situation, if you want to find a common ground, if inside you have prejudices towards this person, you have a negative bias, even if you don't say it, they will feel it, and that will keep on triggering their negative response to you, and they will keep on pushing those buttons, so you won't get anywhere. So that's why it's important that, let's say, another department manager, and they're doing something and you don't agree with them and you think it's going to damage the business. So instead of attacking them and telling them how wrong they are, they're on the wrong track, because immediately they will want to defend their position. Instead, what you can say is, the first thing is to show understanding. So you have to be on their side. You have to show empathy. So you can relate to them, and they will know that you're on their side by saying something like, yes, I understand, the challenge of that. In our team, we experienced something similar recently, and what we tried was XYZ, and this is what worked for us. So, you might consider doing this as well. And then you will come across in such a different way. You'll be collaborative, you'll be a team player, and they'll be more open to take your suggestions, because you won't come across as arrogant or patronizing.
This is I think it also touches on the importance of confidence in articulating it. And I think it still requires some sort of adaptability to it. When I started in HR, I was, as all young HR professionals say, I'm a people's person, so I'd like to work in HR. And then after some years, you realize that the best skill in HR is actually problem solving. So, and I remember I was told that with time, I will develop a thicker skin to deal with problems. And I realized it again, but going back to your first point, I'm a very friendly person. I'm warm, and I like portraying it to others. But working in HR and dealing with different problems, you have to be tough sometimes. So, and I remember struggling sometimes with confidence of being tough. I knew that I should do it, but I couldn't, and I knew how to do it. As you say, like memorizing the words, and I memorized them, but sometimes I really felt that they don't come across as very confident. So how can perhaps even women in particular express this authority and confidence, but without losing their authentic selves?
Yes, that's a very good question, actually. I mean, I can relate to it, of course, as a woman, but also someone who is also very warm and friendly. And, there is also maybe an element of fear of rejection or not being liked by your colleagues. And there's maybe a touch of like people pleasing. I think that also happens. And this happens more maybe with women than with men. We tend to soften our language. And so the phrases we use are slightly different. So because we don't want to come across as very harsh, and this is in the sort of, it's evolutionary. It's maybe in in our DNA. Women were nurturers. They looked after their young. So women are naturally more caring than men. By the way, I don't mean to be like gender biased, but I'm just talking about it from a scientific point of view. But in terms of communication, it's just that women use maybe phrases such as maybe I think we should. So you can replace those phrases with I recommend we. So that sounds more powerful. Instead of saying I think, I believe, or instead of saying maybe we could try, they could say, well, let's consider this, because it sounds like you're more confident, you believe in your suggestion. Whereas when you say things like I think or maybe, it sounds like you're doubting yourself, you're uncertain. And again, this may be an issue when you're surrounded by other colleagues who are more powerful speakers, or your male counterparts. And this might be a situation when you're not taken as seriously. The other thing is the tone. It's been proven that lowering your tone at the end of your statements, so if you have a falling pitch at the end, actually helps you give more certainty to your statements. But if you end on a higher pitch, if you have a rising intonation, it sounds like a question. So it sounds like you're not sure about what you're saying. So you can pay attention to those little things as well.
Okay. That's very interesting.
Mm.
And so you practice this with your clients, or how do you teach them those skills?
Well, the way we do it is sometimes, if they want to practice, let's say, their presentation skills, they want to come across, like they want to be able to persuade and influence people in presentations and in meetings. What I tend to do is first we will have a recording. I'll get them to give me a short presentation, something typical that they would normally do at work. And then as we work on the different techniques, breathing, pacing, the tone, the pitch, and also the template phrases they can use, so they can integrate them with their line of work. And we have role plays, so they get to practice this in a safe environment. There is nobody else to judge them, so there is no fear of looking silly, right? It's just me and my client. And then at the end of our sessions, we will have another recording, and so they can see the difference. But first, at the end of the first recording, we observe it together, like, we evaluate, and they can see the things they maybe hadn't noticed before. And there is a huge difference from the beginning to the end when they actually slow down. Actually, this is another issue. I'm naturally a fast speaker. I've always been that. Speaking fast can show maybe a level of intelligence, but it can also seem as you're being nervous. So sometimes just slowing down by 10% can also help you, just to get your point across.
Oh,
and it helps with the coherence. So it helps people to follow what you're saying.
I sometimes struggle with this so much. I start a sentence and then I remember something else. I bring that into the sentence and then I don't finish the first sentence. And I notice that my opponent is looking at me all confused, but in my head, it runs smoothly and perfectly because
Yes.
I'm following my own narrative that goes in my head. And I think my brain works faster. How do I deal with this?
Okay, no, that's a good point. And this actually links back to, do you remember your newsletter was about filler words?
Yes.
So this is an indication that your brain is processing the information. So in this case, when your brain is faster, then you know what you want to say, but before you articulate the words, it's always good to pause, just even for a split second. It gives your brain the chance to just structure what you're going to say. So instead of saying I mean, and which is normal and natural, but without the filler words, you would sound much more credible and much more confident. One other
Especially
thing.
women, by the way.
Yes. Another thing about, yes, women is explaining things in detail. I used to suffer from this, and maybe in my personal life I still do that, but in business settings I think it's very important that we don't go into very long details, because again, as women, we feel like we have to justify things, we have to explain things, why we're doing something, because we don't want to be judged or we don't want to be punished for it maybe. But in my case, I thought it helped with my clarity. I thought I was explaining the reasons, but no, it does the exact opposite. It dilutes your message. It actually weakens it. So it's best to be concise and brief, say what you want to say. And if the listener has any more questions, they can ask you and you can elaborate. So don't give extra information that they haven't asked for until it's relevant. So you don't have to give the whole history of something, or something that in your mind it was relevant but may not be relevant to them. So because they will get distracted and you will lose the purpose. And another important thing is to have maybe like a framework. So before you speak, have a purpose. So you can start with the main topic, the main statement you want to say, and then the action you took or that needs to be taken, and the results you anticipate. So you could follow like a 3-step type of framework, and it will help you to clarify the points that you want to make.
Oh, very interesting. How about, what are those perhaps 3 steps that somebody can take who never thought about their language as an expression of their personal brand? Where do people even start?
Sorry, what do you mean? So in like when they're giving a presentation, or?
We often think about personal brand as something that how we look. And
Yes.
we very rarely think about our language. We just think
Yes.
that's how we are. So if somebody now watches us talking about language as personal brand, and they think, I've got to start doing something, or I want to know how my language is, what are the steps one can do to actually start working on the language?
You're right. So first of all, many people think personal branding is about visibility. And language is the audible part of your brand. So you can look confident, but if your tone, your phrasing or clarity doesn't match that, the impression breaks. So language communicates your leadership style, your emotional intelligence, and how you make people feel. So that's why your voice, literally how you sound, is one of the biggest factors in how memorable you are. So your true voice is when the way you speak matches who you are. So we talked about this before. It's not exaggerated or over polished, just clear, grounded, and aligned with your values. Okay. And when you speak from your natural style, your credibility increases instantly. What you need to do, maybe if you want to come across as being confident, you can do some breathing exercises before you speak, before a meeting or before giving an important presentation. Try to maybe lower your pitch. So if you breathe from your diaphragm, that kind of helps you to lower your pitch. And as I mentioned before, use a falling intonation at the end of your statements. Pace yourself, don't go too fast. And stress, like take a pause between key points. So you slow down, just allow people to digest that information. And yeah, so having a calm, steady voice with clear structure is far more powerful than fast or loud speech. So it's not about increasing your volume, but it's just being consistent and coherent as well. So talking about the steps, so what are some hidden cues that affect credibility? So let's say the three big cues are, you asked for 3 steps, so I'm going to give you 3. Number 1, pacing, okay? Speaking too fast signals nervousness. Number 2, filler words. Like basically, okay, these dilute your authority. So instead, before you speak, just pause for a second, allow the thoughts to come through you, and so you can articulate them intelligibly. And also sentence shape, like ending statements like questions weakens your message. So don't go on a rising pitch, have a falling intonation at the end. So just these small shifts actually make a huge difference.
It reminds me, I don't know, fake it until you make it. Perhaps the more you practice it, the more confident you
It's
become.
practice. That's right. So it's not about faking it. It's about practice, repetition, and this is how we learn anything, any skill. Imagine the first time you learned to ride a bicycle, the first time you learned how to drive a car. So you weren't just pretending. It wasn't like posing in the car, having someone take a picture of you, but actually taking those lessons, and it was the repetition. And as you learned, you developed those skills. So they became like muscles. Like when you go to the gym, you build muscles. And these are different types of muscles that you build. And doing that is what gives you confidence. The problem is a lot of people wait to feel confident before taking action. But the confidence comes from taking action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From those small steps. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. Guys, please drop in questions if
Yes.
you have whatever you would like to ask, because we are very close to an end. I would like to ask if people want to get in touch with you, and I know you have a little present for them as well.
Yes.
How do they reach out, and how can they just get to know you more?
Well, yes, that's great. Thank you. So I have a free guide on giving constructive feedback in English, and it has some great templates and phrases you can use immediately. And for that, you don't have to be an HR manager. So it's not just for giving feedback based on performance, but if you have anyone reporting to you, if you're a hiring manager, if you are a recruiter. So anytime you need to give feedback to somebody, so in a constructive way, in a kind, empathetic, and diplomatic way. So there is a free guide, which I would love to share with you. So if you type guide under this live stream, I will send that to you directly. And I also have a free HR English communication style assessment. And if you're interested in that and learning about your communication style, and if you want to learn some tips to maybe improve your communication, I can send you the link. So just write assessment below and I'll send you the link directly. But if you don't want to write anything publicly, you can just type DM and I will message you directly. So whatever you prefer.
I'm just gonna write it.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
And whilst you're doing that, so just a couple of other things maybe I could mention. So in terms of types of mistakes non-speakers make that might hurt their presence. So you could be an excellent speaker in your native language, but when you switch to English, you might lose that level of confidence.
oh yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and this is key, right? So the problem is like trying to sound perfect instead of clear. So focus on clarity rather than being a perfect speaker, making no grammatical mistakes. That's not the aim. It's about getting your message across. Another issue might be translating directly from their native language. And so there's a breakdown. So you might not sound natural in English. So if you're translating word for word. So it would be helpful for you to know some useful phrases you can use when you are giving your opinions or asking for opinions, or when you are disagreeing politely, or when you are handling conflict, or when you are announcing some big organizational changes, or even when you're dealing with some sensitive information or some sensitive situations like redundancies in a company. So there are different phrases you can use that convey that warmth and consideration and that respect. And also softening their message too much with I think, maybe, possibly can also dilute, or it could weaken their message. So using some clearer and direct phrases might come across more powerful.
This is priceless tips. We all work now with colleagues from all over the world, and what sounds completely normal in one language would be absolutely inappropriate in another, and rude even.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a couple of stories on my own, and it wasn't nice until I recognized that I'm actually overstepping the cultural barriers here.
Right.
Yeah, I think focusing on being clear and understood is way more important than really trying to hit
Yes,
all the all the sophistication of English language.
definitely. But coming back to what you said about cross cultures, it's also important to know the context. It's important to understand your audience, because if you're dealing with clients or colleagues from, let's say, from the Netherlands, you might have a different approach to somebody who is based in Italy. So you have to take into the cultural communication into account. Sometimes, the safest way is to adopt a neutral language, because very direct language can come across as very abrupt and rude, impolite, and it could be offensive. But some cultures, you might need to really soften your language. You have to be you have to use more formal phrases, more polite phrases. So you need to be aware of that. But if it's a multinational company, then stick to more neutral phrases. If somebody just says, a German speaker might say, please send me the sales results from last week, and it's absolutely fine. But to another speaker, to a native English speaker, that might come across as a bit of a bit too direct. So you might have to say something like, oh, could you please send me the sales results from last week so that I can add it to my report for next month's meeting. And, giving reasons. So this is another thing. So when you ask for something, be clear. So tell them specifically what you need and by when. So you can say, can I have it by the end of this week? So they know exactly what you expect of them. And the reason why. So that I can add it to my report. Okay. So this will also help people respond to you with the information you need, instead of just guessing, did I convey my message clearly and without sort of offending anybody?
Wow, this is a whole other topic
It's another
of cultures.
topic.
No, I absolutely agree. Well, we have some comments for
Oh, great.
assessment, so you will have some
Lovely.
reaching out to do. And
Great.
I would like to thank you so much, Gorkem. It was absolute pleasure to learn from
My
you.
pleasure too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time. Our guys, thank you so much for joining. Really appreciate your comments and your engagement. Please stay tuned. In January, we will be back with new episodes and with new guests. And for now, we say thank you so much, Gorkem, and thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Thank you so much for having me. Bye-bye.